When responsibility is high, rules are low. And in the beginning, that's how it was. God gave them purpose, he gave them responsibility, and there wasn't many rules to go along with it. Now, let me fill in the gap of the story here for just a moment. He created man and woman, gave them this responsibility, this purpose. There really weren't any rules around. And then God actually created, in the next part of the story, he creates a garden. Many of us know of it as the Garden of Eden, where he plants a garden. And then he takes Adam, man, who he had created, and put him in the garden. And he says to him, I want you to work the garden. I want you to care for it. And he says, all of the trees and all of the fruit in the garden, they're all yours. They're all for your enjoyment, except for this one tree. There's just one tree in the middle of the garden that I don't want you to eat from. And then he sees that Adam is lonely and says it's not good for him to be by himself. And so he creates Eve and puts Eve in the garden. And so she knows about this just one rule, high responsibility, low rules, Adam and Eve living in the garden and enjoying life together. And then you may know the story. Even if you've never read the Bible before, you're probably familiar with the concept. The serpent came into the garden, speaks to Eve and says, oh, if you eat from that tree, you're not going to die like God says. You'll actually become like him. So what does Eve do? She takes the fruit and she eats it, and then she gives it to Adam, and then he eats it. And then we pick up the story. It says this: then the man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord God as he was walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and they hid from the Lord God among the trees of the garden. Notice nowhere before this in the story Adam and Eve ever needing to hide from God. They never had to hide from him. They were living a great life, filled with responsibility and purpose, never needing to hide from him. And then the story goes on, it says, but the Lord God called to the man and asked, where are you? Adam answered, I heard you in the garden and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. First time we read about humans being afraid of God, needing to hide from God. Then he goes on and he said to the man, who told you that you were naked? And then this powerful question, have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from? Powerful question. Adam, very mature, emotionally healthy guy, he responds to this great question from God and he says, yes, I did, and I take full responsibility for my actions. I will take my consequence, but leave Eve out of this. She's innocent. She's done nothing wrong. What a guy. Adam, genius. Actually, you'll notice that it switched from the New International Version of the Bible to Perko's paraphrase. That's not actually what happened, okay? Here's what happened. The man said, the woman you, God, put here with me, she gave me some of the fruit from that tree and I ate it. And then I think Adam thinks, oh, yes, I nailed it. Because look what God says. God says, then the Lord God said to the woman, what is this you have done? The woman said, and I think Adam's there going, see, I knew if I just pointed it at Eve, God will know. She was the one that did this. And then she says, the serpent deceived me and I ate it. Even if you're not sure about whether or not this is how the beginning started, even if you're not sure of how the world came into being or how humanity was created, even if you're not sure of this story, you have to admit it's an insight into the human condition. No matter how you think it started, this story has some insights into humanity. Because here's the truth. It's in human nature. It's in our nature to play the blame game. It's hard for us to see responsibility here. But it's easy for us to say, it was the woman that you gave me. She gave it to me. It's easy to say, it was the serpent. It's in our human nature to play the blame game. Here's what I've discovered, though, about the blame game from personal experience. There is nothing to gain in playing the blame game. You never gain anything when you blame.